most noticeable change so far this year in 2021 was the Boyertown yard. Originally a freight yard. Over the years since we started, it kind of transformed a little bit. We had bricks sitting in the yard. We had supplies in the yard. We had everything that you could think about from a railroad was stored in this yard, and we made do with the parking. So this year we finally were able to do some landscape and construction work out in the Boyertown yard that made a huge difference. So we started off by removing a lot of the old silt and stone fill that was left over from the freight yard, took it down to a level where we felt comfortable, and then we started a curbing project. Now everything on this railroad is basically a radius, so Drumheller Construction ran the curbing project, and we used a radius curbing machine which did a wonderful job. No kinks or anything in this curbing. It is just smooth transition lines everywhere, so that made a huge difference. So everything behind the curbing was rough stone and old dirt, and we have a lot of green space now in this area. So what we had to do is actually excavate out all the fill, the stone, the rough millings from the years of railroad and freight in this yard, and then replace it with actual topsoil. So I think it was somewhere around 150 yards of dirt that we brought in to finish this out.
I think this year especially you're going to notice probably the most dramatic transformation in the Boyertown yard. The biggest single thing probably is all the concrete curbing, which sounds kind of mundane, but that curbing that went in is what gives the layout to the entire yard, which then allowed us to finally start doing landscaping, getting all the trees planted that we want to do.
We had a big planting party where we basically planted, I'd say, over 600 plants in this Boyertown yard. Now a lot of them were small boxwoods that we're creating a hedgerow with, but a lot of beautiful trees, a lot of beautiful shrubs, and we also mulched everything at the end. So I know the mulch was over 100 yards of black mulch. I remember that because that was a long couple days for our crew here. We had a few summer helpers that, you know, earned their money this summer in the hot sun doing all this mulching and planting, and I think it was rewarding for all of us in the end for that.
We also have a lot more brick that has gone in this year. It allowed us to do our ADA accessibility from the parking lot area to the ticket area and onto the train, so we're fully ADA capable now from car all the way to train. This coming year, we really hope to continue with the progress in the yard. We hope to do a stamped concrete is what we're planning on right now for the entirety of the yard. So no more gravel, which will be really, really nice. A lot more plants to go in. The antique gates that we restored from Pittsburgh are actually in their kind of final stages of restoration. So come spring, we hope to finally have those erected, which will be really exciting. Bring another piece from Pennsylvania here to Boyertown.
For this coming year, we're waiting on some money, some grant money. We're hoping that we're going to get from Madeline Dean's initiative that she was here for this past year. One of the projects would be an extension of Pear Street, which is the small road that goes up past our restoration, and we want to extend the curbing and the sidewalk all the way up Pear Street and create some more parking up there as well. We'll take our gas lamps up there as well. So it's exciting. That's what we want to do. We also want to bring water into the yard officially. We're going to tap into the water source here for Boyertown and get some water ran in different areas of the yard. And for the future, when we're hopefully in the next few years, we'll be talking about doing a Boyertown station. We'll have the water right here, ready to go. So Colebrookdale is a nonprofit here. We do the excursions, all our events here in Boyertown Yard. The freight end of it is actually the Eastern Berks Gateway Railroad. We're identified as the EBG on the Norfolk Southern Line. It's a totally different entity from Colebrookdale as far as the finances and as far as that's concerned. 2021 freight. We're still moving aggregates out of Alabama. All three different types of aggregates, as you may have heard before: premix, an intermediate, and a fines. They're all a lightweight ash, kind of stone that comes from Alabama. It comes from a mine down there. They ship it up to us. We pick it up in Pottstown, and bring it to Boyertown. We're still moving probably about 50 to 60 cars a year with those guys. We're still doing the chicken byproducts, protein and feather meal. It's a product that we load here into cars, and it gets shipped out to Canada. And finally, the biggest undertaking this year as far as freight was getting our transload facility finally signed off on, and we're going to be breaking ground in January 2022. We were able to work with Berks County Redevelopment Authority, and we received some funding to do a large improvement to our transload facility. It's going to include a large runaround track, and then a spur into a 40 by 20 dumping pit, where we'll be able to accommodate different customers potentially for 2022, where we can roll these cars up onto this pit and then dump the whole car underneath and make a much faster process for us. So we're very excited for 2022 with freight, very much so.
2021 has been a year of rebuilding, and I think that we have a lot of things to be very grateful for. The dedication of our volunteers, the hard work of our employees, the leadership of our staff, and the generosity and kindness of our donors who made the progress that we saw rebuilding from 2020 possible. A railroad is a big project, and I encourage everyone who's following along at home to go onto our website, to click the link that says Get Involved, and you'll see there's a document on our website called Transforming Communities. And that's really our master planning document that talks about what our vision for the railroad is over time. And that may be a 20-year vision. And as 20 years or however long the vision takes to unfolds, there will be changes and modifications and so on and so forth. But as of today, that's what we'd like to see the railroad grow and become. And when you see the scope of that vision, it includes the stations in Pottstown and Boyertown, the extension of the railroad line, the increase to our freight traffic, the evolution of our passenger cars into these beautiful palace cars, the sites along the railroad at Colebrookdale and Glasgow, and you can see that this is a big project. And so when we look back at those things that we're grateful for in 2021 and those things that we're anticipating with excitement and enthusiasm for 2022, we have to understand that these are iterative processes, so that this car that we're sitting in now, for example, is largely complete. It's going to get some new furniture and some other improvements in 2022, but this was something that we celebrated in 2021 as having brought to completion. As I look forward to 2022, I look forward to how much progress we can make in a whole variety of areas. Next year, I'm really excited about the work that we'll be doing at the Colebrookdale site, the Education Center. I'm excited about the work that we'll be doing to build our formal event space at Glasgow. That's a spot for weddings and anniversaries and other parties. And we have a lot of requests for that. I'm looking forward to expanding the offerings that we have for special events. We actually experimented with that a little bit in 2021. How can we use the train to host parties of different kinds? What sort of activities can we do on board? Looking forward to progress with Pottstown Station. The Steel River Station in Pottstown is really a little jewel box on the hill in Memorial Park, and it has been progressing slowly behind the scenes. And I think that what we'll see in 2022 is that now that work becomes more obvious. And my hope is that we'll actually open the station to the public to be able to use. We've been using it for private parties already, but we'll be able to open it to the public. We made great strides this year with our inclusion and empowerment initiatives within our leadership, within our employment base, and also within our volunteers. And that's something I feel very passionate about, particularly including at-risk persons, formerly incarcerated persons, and also persons on the autism spectrum. And I think that is one of the cornerstone pieces of the community benefit mission of the Colebrookdale Railroad, is to make sure that all persons in our society are able to benefit from the wonderful things that the Colebrookdale Railroad does. It's very important now, particularly at this time of year, when we look back at a year's worth of blessings and we anticipate the year ahead, but also at all times, to say thank you. to thank you to our passengers, thank you to our volunteers, thank you to our donors, thank you to the staff, everyone who makes this place the wonderful place that it is. We thank you particularly because this has been a remarkably positive year after a year that was anything but certain to be positive. And I will say, for me personally, being a very project-driven kind of guy, and I'm always looking for what's the next thing we need to get done, and it isn't instinctive or natural for me to pause and reflect. So sometimes I feel as though I forget to say thank you as much as I think it. And so I want to go on record now and forevermore in posterity to say thank you deeply, sincerely, and in perpetuity for all of the wonderful work that each and every one of you have done for the Colebrookdale Railroad. And if you haven't been here before, if you haven't come as a passenger or chosen to join as a volunteer, I encourage you to do that, because this is really a remarkable, transformative kind of project.